In early 2020, I was just like any other first-year student. I was excited about making new friends, planning late night sessions, and also in terms of my future, excited about my future. Then, COVID-19 pandemic hit. Suddenly, lecturers were on a laptop. Suddenly, parties were frozen Zoom calls. Suddenly, my grand future and adulthood came to a halt. I struggled. After classes, I'll stare at my screen and unsure, am I learning? Am I coping with this work? And this is the tensions that I felt. However, even though technology didn't erase this, it gave me a thin thread of hope that gave me hope in terms of entertainment, learning, and getting my content on the board. But for millions across Africa, they experienced even worse. Over 90% of young Africans had no computer at home, and 80% had no internet. That tension struck me deeply, that technology and all the underlying tensions that it creates, and something that we don't even talk about. And coming to where I'm at here, this is why I'm standing here, to talk about technology as I work in the technology field and in AI for Microsoft, navigating organizations in terms of getting them into an AI-driven world. But COVID-19 was the highlight. It was not just a health crisis, it was a digital X-ray that exposed the systems and the cracks in our systems and the tensions that technology actually surfaces up. And now with AI, there's new tensions. There's a tension between exclusion versus access. There's a tension between identity versus imitation. There's a tension between fear versus hope. And there's a tension between disconnection versus connection. However, with these tensions, there's optimism. There's optimism where a Google Ipsos survey showed that 71% of South Africans believe that AI will benefit, which is above the global average, and 78% believe that it will benefit science and medicine. Today, I want to invite you into a conversation that we're having openly. Africa's AI tech future will be balanced by how well we balance tension and hope. And from my perspective and experiences, I'm suggesting the following 4 commitments and actionable steps that you can champion in your organizations, in your schools, and in your institutions. So let's talk about the first tension, exclusion versus access. Technology and AI actually risks becoming privilege for the few instead of lifelines for the many. As Africans, we are community-based. We believe in community. However, with technology coming in, we feel excluded, that it's only for the few, and that's not often the case. The solution that I suggest is principles before products. We like to focus on products, what's coming in new, but we need to focus on principles. And this is guided by our ethos, Ubuntu. I am because we are. That we invite everyone into the fold in terms of innovation. And it asks us certain questions. Does innovation build connection? Does it protect dignity? And if the answer is no, it's not innovation, it's intrusion. The second tension is around disconnection versus connection. AI and technology often mimics human connection, but we often feel disconnected in terms of what matters most. Just think about it. We have social media where we have friends, we have followers, but not always friends. We also have, in terms of online meetings, but it actually hasn't given us meaning. This is the dilemma that we face all the time around the tension of that connection. And the solution that I'm providing around this is to see technology as a tool, not a savior. Most of the times we see technology, we want to implement it and make it as a savior, but it's actually a tool that can actually help you. We need to learn it, we need to govern it, and we need to utilize it. In AI systems, in terms of human in the loop, is one of the ways that we can actually incorporate AI, where technology supports, but humans are always in charge. That builds trust. And if we bring it to an example is M-Pesa. M-Pesa was in Kenya, And they actually solved this solution where they gave communities trust, solving a pressing need, secure transactions for the unbanked. And that's how they built their connection with the community. So now if we incorporate AI models, machine learning with actual solutions, look at how the connection can come into place. Most of the times we try and jump into the connections, but we need to make sure that we actually have technology as a tool and that it's actually serving a purpose for it. So that's how we actually bring connections, make sure that it's technology as a tool, not a savior. The third tension that we face, which is the big one, fear versus hope. AI is often a double-edged sword. On one side, we have that fear. On the other side, AI also inspires hope. But in terms of AI specifically, we need to make sure that one of the solutions that we bring is to see that technology as a whole serves us and that fear is not going to be crippling us. I experience this often. I'm working and I'm studying, and in this studying, I've been studying for months and months, and when I go into the AI platform, it generates it in seconds. What I've been learning for months and months. I actually realized that, you know what, AI will graduate before I do. This is the tensions that we face around with AI. So what is the solution around this? Actually having skills, making sure that our skills are enabled. Skills before hype. Making sure that we learn with it, we use it, and that we govern it in a responsible manner. So let's bring it down to practical steps. An example of this is actually having AI centers of excellence across Africa. If we can institute these centers of excellence across Africa where we're covering research, we're covering ethical development, we're covering policy making, and we're covering development of AI, this can actually institute centers of excellence so that we can incorporate AI into our systems. The next, in terms of an example, is what if we actually brought in predictive models to actually solve Africa's real problems, like reliable electricity and water, where we actually optimize the grid, we optimize distribution, we optimize the forecasting of demand in order to get the benefit of AI while we're building that infrastructure out. This is an example of actually not using fear and actually building those skills. And then bring it to us, you and I, where we are working, we're experimenting around AI, and we can actually use it in our own workflows where we're experimenting and we actually are problem solving around this. This is how we're actually building the skills behind that. So we need to make sure that our skills grow. When we focus too much on not the skills aspects, then we are actually dependent on it. While if we build the skills, then we create independence. So skills before hype. And then finally, around imitation versus identity, that tension that we face. Africa's AI and data is not part of us. And if we don't include that in our solutions, then we'll have to incorporate someone else's worldview, which we are actually seeing right now. And we probably are asking questions that, yes, Africa has many challenges. Yes, Africa may not have sovereignty over these systems. Yes, Africa may not even own these systems. But the question today is, can we just start? Can we start now before we get left behind? This is what we need to do. We need to actually celebrate our success and our stories. And that is one of the solutions that I'm suggesting. Celebrate them. An example of this is now startups are actually building AI local languages on the AI models, making sure that it understands African languages in our dialects and in our idioms. Also, there's another solution around actually incorporating farmers, where it actually understands climate change and it gives predictive forecasting. This is solutions that are actually enabling us in order to bring AI into the fold. And then one example that I also wanted to bring that I've actually faced is that in my organization as Microsoft, they have committed to actually training millions of Africans in digital skills. And over 1 million Africans actually have been trained and have IT certifications around the AI. So this is an example of actual purpose and impact, that large-scale skilling can actually be implemented in our solutions. So we need to celebrate these successes, we need to celebrate these stories, and we need to start where we are at. So let me bring the big picture down to earth in terms of the tensions that we face with AI. If we tackle access, then we create inclusion. If we tackle disconnection, we can create connections. If we tackle fear, then we can create hope. And if we tackle imitation, we can create identity. The kaleidoscope of Africa's AI is in our hands. Let us turn it with every fragment so that we can see something even more beautiful. This is my perspective, that AI's future will be determined by how well we balance tension and hope. And tension is real, but hope always wins. So I want to ask you a question just to end off. How will you shape Africa's AI with hope at its center? Thank you.